To all veterans today, I extend my deep gratitude for your service, and I'll come to a statement on that in just a minute. Before I do that, can I say I greatly welcome the further reporting on the employment figures today. The unemployment rate has fallen again to 5.6%, some 70,000 new jobs. We've seen the participation rate climb to the highest level on record. We've seen the youth unemployment rate, which is a great relief to see that falling down to 11.8% from 12.9%. And we're seeing the underemployment rate and the underutilisation rate also fall. This is all good news for Australians to see jobs continue to come back into the economy. Here in Western Australia, the news is particularly good, with some 28,100 more jobs coming into the Western Australian economy and the unemployment rate now falling to 4.8% from 6%. And so Western Australia can say, with so many other states now, that there are more people employed here than there were before the pandemic, and that is another milestone in Australia's great economic comeback from the COVID-19 pandemic recession. And so those numbers, I think, will be a great encouragement to Australians all around the country. Later today I'll be heading up to that part of Western Australia that is a key part of this state's great success in the Pilbara. And I look forward to that visit over the next 24 hours or so. So those numbers, very, very welcome. I now want to turn to a very important and serious issue. Today the government is announcing that Australia will conclude the drawdown of our contribution to the NATO-led Resolute Support Mission in Afghanistan. Over the past 2 years we've been reducing our military presence in Afghanistan from a high of over 1,500 personnel to around 80 personnel currently. In line with the United States and our other allies and partners, the last remaining Australian troops will depart Afghanistan in September 2021. The decision represents a significant milestone in Australia's military history. Over the last 20 years, Australia has been a steadfast contributor to the fight against terrorism in Afghanistan. Australia has fought alongside coalition and Afghan partners to degrade the capabilities of terrorist organisations, including Al-Qaeda. More than 39,000 Australian Defence Force personnel have deployed on Operations Slipper and High Road, helping to protect the safety and security of the Australian people at home and overseas. But safeguarding Afghanistan's security has come at a great cost to Australia. Since 2001, 41 Australian personnel have lost their lives while serving in Afghanistan, and many more were wounded, some physically, others mentally, and will be dealing with the scars, both mental and physical, of their service for many, many years. I would like to take a moment to read the honour roll of those 41 Australians who sacrificed their lives for the sake of freedom. Sergeant Andrew Russell, Trooper David Pearce, Sergeant Matthew Locke, Private Luke Worsley, Lance Corporal Jason Marks, Signaller Sean McCarthy, Lieutenant Michael Fussell, Private Gregory Sher, Corporal Matthew Hopkins, Sergeant Brett Till, Private Benjamin Renato, Sapper Jacob Moreland, Sapper Darren Smith, Private Timothy Applin, Private Scott Palmer, Private Benjamin Chuck, Private Nathan Buse, Trooper Jason Brown, Private Thomas Dale, Private Grant Kirby, Lance Corporal Jared McKinney, Corporal Richard Atkinson, Sapper Jamie Larkham, Sergeant Brett Wood, Lance Corporal Andrew Jones, Lieutenant Marcus Case, Sapper Rowan Robinson, Sergeant Todd Langley, Private Matthew Lambert, Captain Bryce Duffy, Corporal Ashley Burt, Lance Corporal Luke Gavin, Sergeant Blaine Diddams, Sapper James Martin, Lance Corporal Shepard Rick Milosevic, Private Robert Pote, Private Nathaniel Gallagher, Lance Corporal Mervyn MacDonald, Corporal Scott Smith, Corporal Cameron Baird, BC, Lance Corporal Todd Chidgey. The loss is great, the sacrifice immense, the bravery and courage, things we can speak of but not know of personally. These brave Australians are amongst our greatest ever who have served in the name of freedom. This day we dedicate to their memories. We think of their families, their friends, the life they would have lived, but they gave that for others they did not know. We can be so proud of them, of their service. We are so proud of the men and women who serve in our Australian Defence Forces, so many of them also represented here in Western Australia. We thank them for their service humbly and gratefully. The memories of all Australian Defence Force members who have lost their lives continue to be honoured for their sacrifice and contribution to Australia's mission in Afghanistan. And we also acknowledge all those Australians who have served in Afghanistan and the impact this has had on their lives. And we commit ourselves to supporting them. The conflict has exacted an enormous toll also on the people of Afghanistan. And to President Ghani, once again, we stand with them and the complex task of making peace that lies ahead for those people. Australia continues to support the peace negotiations between the Afghan government and the Taliban. We encourage both parties to commit to the peace process that so many Australians have died to provide for. While our military contribution will reduce, we will continue to support the stability and development of Afghanistan through our bilateral partnership and in concert with our other nations. This includes our diplomatic resources, development cooperation program and continued people-to-people links that I know the Afghan government is very grateful for in my own discussions with President Ghani. Training and scholarship programs amongst the so many, supporting particularly women in Afghanistan. Australia remains committed to helping Afghanistan preserve the gains of the last 20 years, particularly for women and girls. I'll take a few questions. We have some other commitments today. I'm sorry? Oh, look, our emotions are of no consequence compared to those who have lost their family members. I was particularly thinking of Bree Till from my own electorate. Her son, who was also Brett's son, is in the same class of one of my daughters. And I remember when Brett was killed, and I spoke in the Parliament. I was in opposition at the time, and it reminded me of what it must have been like in our country when you think back to the First and Second World Wars. These 41 lives lost, so terrible, and I saw so awfully the pain of Brett's widow and his surviving children and his yet unborn boy, and the hope that that gave to Bree. That story was repeated on a daily basis during those great conflicts, and we have some knowledge of it through this terrible experience and what our veterans deal with on a daily basis as they remember those who fell. And so yes, it is an emotional day, but mainly and most importantly must think of those who have been most significantly impacted, the families of those who are lost and that sacrifice which they live with each and every day, but also those who bore arms with them and served with them. They carry that loss with them every single day, and it is a reminder to all of us to be so grateful for their service. Sorry. Freedom's always worth it. Australians have always believed that. That's why Australians who have served in our Defence Forces have always pulled on that uniform. As Vince knows only too well.
Absolutely, boss.
Putting on that uniform, serving under our flag, defending our values and standing up for them is what Australians do. And those 41 brave men have exhibited that more than any other Australian can ever hope to.
It says that would be Australia pulling out in September,
Yep.
let me out by September 11, like the American forces.
September is the date we're currently working to. I'm not giving any further date on that. We're obviously coordinating with the Americans in particular. As I indicated yesterday when I was asked about this matter, these are things we have been working closely on together for some time, but for obvious operational reasons and other matters, they have remained matters of national security.
Also, more crime allegations in Afghanistan. Could we have done better?
There'll be time to talk about those things. Today is not that time.
How do you categorise Australia's contribution to the ongoing conflict?
One of great bravery, one of great sacrifice, one of great noble service, one of great compassion and care for the people of Afghanistan. I've spoken to many veterans who have returned from Afghanistan and who have shared with me, Andrew Hastie, another who has shared with all of us his experiences there, Phil Thompson, and they speak of the Afghan people in such a caring way, an empathetic way. What they were doing there was incredibly important to them. That's why they continued to serve, and that's why we, I think, can be very thankful for their service today. Okay.
Yes, look, it was a dance performance at a missionary ship. The Governor-General says he wasn't there when it happened, as it made to look like he was. The dancers now feel unsafe after the ABC broadcast. Do you have a response?
Well, I'm disappointed that this event was so misreported. I think that was disrespectful to the performers. To suggest there were the Governor-General or others were in attendance there in that way, I think was very dishonest, and I think standards have failed, and so I think obviously Defence will look at these matters and make whatever changes they wish to in the future, and I'll leave that to them. But it is disappointing that Australians were so misled on that issue.
Was it an appropriate performance for the event?
I'll leave that to Defence, because it's clear much of the reporting we've seen of that matter and that has been provided to Australians, and in this case by the ABC, was wrong, was false and was misleading. And I think that's very disappointing. I think the ABC should be reflecting on that.
Is the federal government,
Yep.
is the federal government willing to provide more money to the states to help pay more mass vaccination sites? And are you going to ask the states to help vaccinate aged and disability care workers?
The aged disability care workers is a program we're working through right now. As I indicated to you before, when some of you were able to join us for the start of the meeting with the AMA and some local GPs here. I'm looking forward to their further input. We've got over 4,000 doctors now, surgeries across the country, which are involved directly in the rollout. The National Cabinet will meet on Monday. It will meet again later in the week. These are the issues that we're working through, but what I'm quite confident of is that the states and the territories and the Commonwealth will just work together to get this done. That's what we did all through COVID last year. That's what we'll do with these challenges. It's another set of challenges. There's some problems to solve. That we have national partnership agreements in place for vaccination with the states and territories that deal with the distribution, as we do have arrangements with the GPs and pharmacists, and we'll work with them to get the job done. Australians want to see the job get done. I'm committed to getting the job done. I'm committed to working together with the states and territories and the doctors and the many other health professionals in this country to get that job done. But today, let us just pause in solemn silence and sadness for the great loss of those 41 brave Australians and simply say to them, thank you for your service.
Will you vaccinate our